better. As Janae noted multiple times, today is about engagement with you, about understanding your concerns. So at any point today, feel free to voice those concerns in your breakout sessions. We really want to encourage your participation. I hope you all had a chance to see the science fair exhibit outside and engage with some of our experts. But as a little icebreaker, we figured we'd do one more activity to get us started so folks can feel a little more open to the concept of participating today. So we're going to start off with an interactive activity. And to lead us in this interactive activity, please help me in welcoming Toni Smith-Thompson, Daniel Schwarz, and Nicole Triplett from the New York Civil Liberties Union. And we will have folks in the audience with microphones so that you can have your questions and concerns addressed.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Toni Smith-Thompson. I'm a senior organizer at the New York Civil Liberties Union. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves quickly again, your name and role.
Hello, Nicole Triplett, Policy Counsel of the New York Civil Liberties Union.
I'm Daniel, Privacy and Tech Strategist at the NYCLU.
So when you walked in, you should have received a survey from me. We're going to put it up there so you can see it also. Does everyone have one of these? Here's some. Can I get a, okay. No, there are more. There are more in the back. Okay, so as we give those out, and it's also on the screen, as you're looking at the survey, you might have filled it out already. You might be wondering, what is this survey? What does it mean? You might not be. You might have put it down like, I'm not filling that out, right? Either way, though, we want to engage with it for a few minutes. So I just want to give people maybe 2 minutes if you haven't already filled it out. Please fill it out, or at least make a mental note of what your responses would be if you did fill it out if you don't have a pen or pencil. And maybe people can share their pen or pencils. Easier to see over here? Okay. Thanks. Good. Thank you. One more minute. Are people mostly done? Thumbs up? All right. So this is a made-up survey. It is not an application in our real life anywhere. It is hypothetical, tongue-in-cheek, silly survey to determine how strong are your ties to your community. So the survey has hypothetical points assigned to each answer, which we did not provide to you when we gave you the survey. So now we're going to go through the scoring, so please follow along and tally up your own score, either on paper or in your head, whatever works for you. So the first question is, how close is your neighborhood's best pizza spot? Within 1 block of your home, 1 to 5 blocks from your home, 6 or more blocks from your home. So if you put within 1 block, go ahead and give yourself 20 points. 1 to 5, you get 10 points. 6 or more, 0 points for that question. We good? Okay. Second question. Of the people you call regularly, do you have their phone numbers memorized? If you said, I know everybody's number memorized, I don't deal with the smartphone memorization, I need to know, give yourself 20 points. If you're kind of starting to rely on technology to memorize people's phone numbers for you, just like maybe a few, give yourself 10 points for that. And then if you're like, I don't know anybody's number anymore, 0 points. Okay? Question 3. Do you know the names of your neighbors? If you're like, yes, everyone in my building, down the block, 10 blocks, to the next neighborhood, go ahead and give yourself 20 points. If you're a few, people down the hall, maybe a floor above or below or next door, 10 points. If you don't, if you're like, I say hi, but I don't ask for people's names actually, sorry, that's a 0 for you. Okay, are you on a first name basis with your local bodega owner? If you're like, yep, 20 points. You go in, but you don't ask the name, 10 points. If you're asking what's a bodega, I'm sorry, that's a 0 for you. Yeah. And finally, when you see dog poop on the ground, do you pick it up and leave spare bags so your neighbor knows next time, please use that bag? That's 20 points. If you're like me, you step over it, keep on moving, hope the next person does the same, 10 points. Report it to 311, right? That's a thing you could do, but you're not gonna get points for that in this survey. And if you're thinking, I'm going straight to 911, you go ahead and take away some points. 20 whole points. So now we scored. Nicole, can you tell us, what does this mean in our survey?
So we determined that only people who scored 80 and above have sufficient community ties, meaning everyone who scored below 80 have insufficient community ties. So by a show of hands, how many of you all scored a perfect 100? Okay, show of hands, how many of you all scored 80? Ooh. Okay, so, I mean, this is, like Toni said, this was, something that we made up. But realistically, how many of you all feel like this is a fair representation of your community ties? To the extent that you feel like community ties can be measured. Oh, okay. Okay, how many of you don't? Okay, so we want to just take a couple of minutes for you all to share with your partner, neighbor, and we're going to use neighborly words, your neighbor, since we're talking about community ties, to discuss maybe some things that this survey didn't account for, maybe some omissions that you felt like didn't capture the universe of what should determine your community ties, or maybe a question you thought was a misfit. Feel free to share with others your thoughts.
Yeah. Just about 3 minutes. Just share with the people next to you.
Oh. I forgot. And I want to add to the question. I'm going to add to the question. Sorry, you guys. What does this mean if this was actually used, this type of tool to determine your community ties was actually used to determine some sort of access to liberty, privacy, benefits, or any other opportunities? Compound question.
All right, let's come back together. I know we could keep talking about this for a while, right? Okay, last sentence. So I'm gonna walk around the room and I just wanna hear from some people. I'm just gonna point the mic out if you have something to say. I wanna hear from some people. What are some questions? What is a question that you had about this survey? Our methodology, our reasoning, the questions. What's one question you have about this?
I was curious as to whether or not the culture of the community was taken into consideration.
Fantastic. Someone else? Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, what kind of discussions or questions were you anticipating us to start to ask and think about as participants in the survey?
Yeah. Thank you.
If I don't have a dog, why am I carrying around extra poop bags?
How are things weighted, like the score-wise? Why do some things get 20s, 10s, and like, is there any way you can have a number between those two?
Absolutely. Absolutely that matters. Anyone else?
Why did y'all choose this specific question to ask us?
Who's determining the questions, right? Yeah.
We didn't include the community in what we thought would be important to weigh against.
Totally. We didn't ask different communities, right? You don't know our process. A few more? Okay, come in one. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
We talked about how if you don't have a good pizzeria in your neighborhood, does that mean you don't have community ties?
Why are you penalized for that, right?
It's not your fault.
Yeah, I didn't see any questions about participation with activities and groups in the community, churches, community centers, community gardens, etc.
Okay.
I mean, the answer is not even there. Who created the questions?
Yeah.
You didn't take in consideration age.
Ah, I love that you just said that. So now let's look at what this can mean in real life, right? Like you see up there, what could this mean for your life if a government agency wanted to use this tool to make decisions about your liberty, your privacy, your benefits, and your opportunity? Can I kick it back to you? Need a mic?
Yes.
Okay.
So our tongue-in-cheek activity, as you pointed out rightly, I think you captured most of the three issues we captured in the slide, that very specific and distinct personal decisions have been baked into our questionnaire. And similarly, real-world automated decision systems hide those and have them integrated into their decision-making. And once they're part of that system, they also are hidden away and gain a certain aura of truth or scientific truth, or perhaps a neutrality in the viewer of who's receiving and looking at that score and making a decision about your life. Furthermore, oftentimes they're hidden behind intellectual property, they're proprietary, and you have no way of looking into what goes into those decisions. And it comes back down to a basic fallacy that all these decision-making systems attempt to predict or foresee the future based on past behavior, and perhaps most importantly, what is commonly coined as garbage in, garbage out, and what you experienced in this little activity, that it completely and implicitly relies on the data it takes in. So if we look as an example at unconstitutional and racially biased policing practices here by the NYPD, that in turn will be reflected in the practices that will be recommended. And as some of you pointed out, the age data point is part of real-world risk assessment tools, and Nicole will go over some of these examples.
Yeah, so I think the reason why we picked community ties is because community ties sounds nice. It sounds like a reasonable goal. And actually, community ties here in New York is used, and I think in other states, for determining risk for flight for pretrial decisions. And so community ties seems like something that is neutral, is objective, but then the way that the factors that they use to determine that can be more subjective. And so these are some examples of some factors that are in real-world pretrial risk assessment tools. Your employment status, whether or not you have a working telephone number, how long you've been at a certain residence, lived at a certain residence. We made this up based on a couple of pretrial risk assessment tools that we've seen. But this is just another illustration of how what you just experienced is applied in real world for pretrial risk assessments. So you see the factors: phone, full-time activity, whether or not you're in school or are you at a part-time job. Some of these factors are used to determine whether or not you have community ties, which is used to determine whether or not you are released pre-trial, which is a liberty-based decision. So much in the same way that we made the cutoff to say that everyone who scored 80 and above has sufficient community ties. Judges use these risk assessment tools, and they make strict cutoff points, or administrators of these tools make strict cutoff points to determine who's deemed to have a certain risk level, meet a certain risk level. And so in addition to what Daniel said and what we're going to unpack throughout the day, which is the fallacy of prediction and how we assume that the future repeats the past and garbage in, garbage out, there are also biased decisions that are made outside of the tool and its application and making these strict cutoff points, which is what you just experienced in me saying that anyone who scored 80 and above having sufficient community ties. Okay?
Great. So just to wrap up, this brought up a lot of opinions, reactions related to the methodology, right? You had questions about, did you talk to our community? How did you choose questions? Who are we to be making these determinations? There seem to be problems with using tools like this to predict human behavior. So we're going to ask you to stay in this headspace throughout the day. This was an activity to begin your thinking and questioning, and in order to facilitate conversations later as we explore more of these systems. Thank you.
That was a fantastic activity. Can we give them one more round of applause? That was really great. I don't think that I've been to anything in all of my time of discussing biases and technology that actually incorporated community feedback and sought